In this video, I'll talk about handguns, which in my opinion are some of the most highly regarded in the history of firearms. These include both semi-automatic pistols as well as revolvers. Join me as I go back in time to take a look at what, in my opinion, are the top most iconic handguns of all time. Number 7. Walther PPK. James Bond fans are getting fewer and fewer these days, and now that those Hollywood wokesters killed our guy in the last movie, will probably go extinct in the next few decades. But if you're a James Bond buff, you probably know that he carried a Beretta M418 in the early Ian Fleming novels, and in Dr. No, the first movie adaptation of that novel with the same title in 1962. James initially carried a Beretta M1934. Both were replaced by the Walther PPK, which in the following decades would become as iconic as James Bond himself. It has many clones, among which are countless Makarov variants, the CZ-70 and the Burst of Thunder 380. There are two interesting tidbits about James Bond's Walther PPK. One, Ian Fleming didn't really care about guns and was only convinced by another Englishman, Geoffrey Boothroyd, to change Bond's carry pistol. 2. The Walther PPK is really only a smaller version of the Walther PP. It has a shorter barrel, a smaller frame, a shorter grip, and a reduced magazine capacity. Since the first James Bond actor, Sean Connery, stood 6 feet 2 inches, the PPK was too tiny for his ginormous hands, which is why they had him use a full-size Walther PP. So if you think about it, it should be the Walther PP on this list, not the Walther PPK. Number 6. Beretta 92. One of the most easily recognizable guns in the world, the Beretta 92's exposed barrel gives it its distinctive look, which adds to its status as an icon. One of the reasons why the Beretta 92 has become so popular over the past few decades is because of its presence in video games. I swear I can talk about Albert Wesker's Samurai Edge all day, so I won't get to it. But before there were video games, there were Hollywood action movies. People in the film industry claim Beretta M92 prop guns are so prevalent they have become so cheap. And a quick Google search corroborates that claim. If you head on over to newrulefx.com, a website where lifelike movie props are being sold, a lightweight M9 Beretta replica made of foam rubber can be purchased for as little as $20, while ones that can fire 8mm blanks are selling on stagepropsblankguns.com for just $112 a piece. But prior to them becoming popular because of both video games and Hollywood movies, we all know that the Beretta M92 superseded the M1911 as the U.S. military's standard issue sidearm in 1985. It was only in 2017 that the U.S. military switched to the highly modular SIG P320. Even after that, the popularity of the M92 hasn't diminished. Beretta has 31 different variants under their 90 series, while clones like the Taurus 92 and the EAA Regard are still on the market today. Number 5. CZ-75. The popularity and resulting iconic status, or a seeming lack thereof, of the CZ-75 is a subject of contention among many American handgun enthusiasts. Some believe it's nowhere near as popular as it should be. Others believe it's fairly popular, just not as popular as Glocks. While a few of the brand's fervent followers, some frequenting gun forums and even writing on gun blogs, swear by the CZ-75's popularity and would go so far to argue that it is the most copied semi-automatic pistol design, not the 1911, which I'll get to later in the video. I can certainly understand why some can make that claim. On the screen right now is a diagram, uploaded by a Glock Talk forums user with the handle Dave514. It shows all the existing manufacturers, variants, clones, and derivatives of the CZ-75, so you have an idea how truly iconic this pistol is, not just in the US, but in the whole world. But on that claim that the CZ-75 is the most copied, nothing could be farther from the truth. Do a quick Google search using the terms CZ-75 is the most copied handgun in the world, and the first snippet you'll see is from CZ's website itself that clearly reads, quote, The CZ75 is the second most copied handgun design ever, surpassed in number of imitations only by the M1911, straight from the horse's mouth. Still, being second only to the M1911 as far as being the most copied design is nothing to scoff at. Number 4. Colt Python. I'm sure most of you are tired of hearing that the Colt Python is the Cadillac of revolvers. I can relate. The Quarth Combat from the 1980s was considered by wheelgun enthusiasts around the world to be the best .357 Magnum revolver ever built, and the Manurin MR73 was ranked a close second. Newer Quarth and Manurin models are still some of the finest wheelguns in the industry, and even Performance Center Smith & Wesson 686 models will easily outclass any factory Colt Python, old or new. But in its heydays, the Colt Python was unrivaled. It was capable of half-inch groups at 50 yards, thanks to its super tight tolerances and its match-grade barrel that was given Colt's super-secret silver ball treatment. And thanks to all the walruses that were skinned and buckets of good old-fashioned elbow grease, the Python's royal blue finish was the stuff of legends, something that millennials, like myself, will probably never see replicated in this lifetime. It's why old Colt Pythons are still highly sought after by collectors, even after the 2020 remake came out. As a testament to its iconic status, many revolvers on the market have taken design cues from the Colt Python. The full barrel underlug is now prevalent in many of its competitors, while the vented rib can be seen mostly in Taurus revolvers. But that's not why I included the Colt Python on this list. When I first became aware of the Colt Python, I was a teenager, playing the first Resident Evil game. Yeah, Resident Evil, with the lights turned off. I picked it up from that little tiger statue that needs a red jewel in one of its eye sockets. I thought, what a letdown. It took me a whole month to get out of that mansion, only to go back in and get a boring revolver. But much to my surprise, it consistently decapitates every single zombie in the game. It made me ask myself the big questions. What the hell is the .357 Magnum? How is it able to decapitate zombies? Truth be told, the Colt Python is what started my career as a gunwriter. It's a shame it could only be the fourth on this list. Number 3. Colt Single Action Army. The most recognizable and arguably the most American revolver ever built, the Colt Single Action Army, or Colt SAA for short, is known by many different names. The Equalizer, the Model P, the Frontier, the M1973, the Peacemaker, and the gun that won the West. It was adopted by the U.S. Army as their standard issue sidearm from 1873 to 1892, and has been copied nonstop by companies like Standard Manufacturing, USFA, Great Western Arms, PEWPEW, and Army San Marco. Why is it number 3 on this list? It's because of the OK Corral shootout. Considered by many as the most famous gunfight in the history of the American Old West, the shootout at the OK Corral occurred on Wednesday, October 26th of 1881. It happened in Tombstone, Arizona Territory, and reportedly only lasted for about 30 seconds. But if you've ever been in a gunfight, 30 seconds is like an eternity. The shootout was between a group of lawmen, which included the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday, and the Clanton-McClurry gang, members of a loosely organized group of outlaws. Most, if not all of them, used the Colt Single Action Army. When the dust settled, 3 members of the criminal gang were killed, and the Earp brothers, Doc Holliday, the gunfight, and the revolver they all used would become legends, immortalized time and again in Hollywood movies. And if you're a Resident Evil fan, you probably know that the Colt Single Action Army was a secret weapon for Claire in the second game. Sorry, but I just thought I'd bring that up. Number 2, Mauser C96, aka Broom Handle. Besides being the base gun for Han Solo's DL-44 blaster and appearing as a playable weapon in one of the best-selling video games of the early 2000s, Resident Evil 4, I swear this is the last time I'll mention that damn franchise, the Mauser C96, also known as the Broom Handle, is so much more than just an iconic pistol. World War II wouldn't have been won by the Allied forces had they been unable to launch the D-Day invasion, which ultimately pushed the Nazi Germany military forces back to Germany. And the D-Day invasion wouldn't have happened if the English surrendered to the Nazis just like the French did in 1940. This might be a debatable subject, and you can certainly share your thoughts by commenting below. But in my opinion, one of the most important reasons the free world exists today is because England was able to hold long enough for America to participate in the war to launch the D-Day invasion. And England would have surrendered earlier on had it not been for the leadership of Sir Winston Churchill, who reportedly could have died in the Battle of Omdurman in September of 1898, had it not been for his trusty Mauser C96. I won't get too deep into it, because it'll take hours. But that history bit makes the Mauser C96 one of the most iconic handguns in the world. Unfortunately, production ceased in 1937. A Spanish gun manufacturer named Astra built some really good copies under their Model 900 series, but those too aren't being made anymore. Number 1. M1911. And finally, I get to talk about my favorite, and what, in my opinion, is the most iconic handgun of all time, bar none, the 1911. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who knows about guns, as the 1911 holds the record for being the longest-serving standard-issue sidearm of the U.S. military. As its name suggests, the M1911 was adopted by the U.S. military in 1911. It was only superseded by the Beretta M92 in 1985. Even after then, other sub-branches of the military like the U.S. Marine Corps' MEU and FORCON still carry a greatly improved variant of the 1911 as their standard-issue sidearm with the designation M45 MEU SOC. Also, I mentioned in an earlier section of this video that the CZ75 is the second most copied handgun design in the world. That's because the CZ75 pistol was released in 1975. As the gun originated in a comm-block country, its designers, the Kuski brothers, were unable to secure international patents for their design. When some of the pistols were smuggled outside of their country, the design was quickly copied. But that was sometime in the late 1970s. By comparison, even though the 1911 didn't have patent limitations, its patent expired sometime in the 1930s, which means gun manufacturers in the world have been cloning the hell out of it for some 40 years before the CZ75 could be cloned. The 1911 has appeared in countless movies and video games and will continue to appear in more. And this handgun is also the only reason why the 45 ACP is still alive today, despite the 9mm dominating both military and civilian handgun and ammo markets for decades. The 1911 is so iconic that it received a redesign to address its greatest limitation, low ammo capacity. In the community, this redesign is commonly referred to as the 2011. It's a 1911 that has a modular frame made wider to accommodate a double-stack magazine, but it uses thinner grip panels to allow for a narrower overall grip profile for a solid purchase. The 2011 is the answer to the high ammo capacity craze started by the Wonder 9s in the 1970s, and is now one of the most popular platforms, if not the most popular, for building race guns for US PSA and IPSC. If none of what I just said is enough proof that the 1911 is the most iconic handgun in the world, then I don't know what else to say. And that's it for this video. I'm sure you believe there are other handguns out there that are even more iconic than the ones on my list. Feel free to let me know what your picks are by commenting down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and click on that little bell icon so you don't miss out on any new content. And as always, thanks for watching.